carnal, dice mi gente, la raza está abajo y tú estás indiferente. Prefieres cerrar los ojos, no vi nada. Estabas ocupado por andar en la tomada. Te gusta tirar el cruising todo el día, buscando a las mujeres como si el mundo acabaría. Pero no sabías que tú podías continuar tu educación para superarte en la vida. Hermano joven, levanta tu frente y siente el orgullo de ser un descendiente de los aztecas, los incas y los mayas. Ayúdame a pelear y vencer.
Antonio Diaz con su programa de Mestizo Experience. Estamos ya en el mes de octubre. Es el mes que Cristo Colón llegó aquí en las islas del Caribe y empezaron a invadir los españoles nuestras tierras. We're in the month of October, and it's the month in 1492 Columbus landed in the Caribbean, and the Spaniards started invading inland, going northward. And so we have a march here. Every year for the last 20 some odd years, about 22 years now, focusing on that we are a colonized indigenous people, colonized first by the Spaniards, and then I think the French had a little thing, and then all the immigrants coming from the 13 colonies moving on down that were displacing all the natives, which we are as well. That's why we have this march to recognize that even though chaos and havoc and basically genocide arrived on our shores, we're still here. And so that's what our march is about, is to still denounce violations of human rights against mainly indigenous people, but against all human beings, because Native people, and I've said this many times, have said this, that when they saw, if you want to go to the 13 colonies over there off Virginia or wherever, or even here, the people in Cuba or in the islands of the Caribe first saw Spaniards coming onto their shores, they saw a human being. Even though he was dressed kind of strange for them, but they saw a human being. They didn't see race or whatever. They saw a human being. It's been the imposition of white supremacy that was imposed here, basically within the warring of the European nations, Spain and all the rest, Portugal, and then the Catholic Church, that religion that insisted that they had the authority to dictate or to somehow decipher who had the rights of being a human being and who didn't. See, this goes way back, but it's still in practice today. 500 and some odd years later, all that is still practiced here, not just here, but you have it worldwide, where a lot of the other countries in Asia and in the Middle East have overthrown their colonists, right? The people that went over there and colonized us. For us, it was harder because once the English started sending all their workers over here, and then they revolted, they decided to form a government and call themselves the colonists. And then besides colonists, they called themselves the actual people from here, because they somehow set up a court system and set up a paperwork where they could own the land that we never set up paperwork to own, right? So we march on October the 14th. The United States celebrates Columbus Day as a federal holiday on the second Monday to kind of keep it so that the workers can keep on getting that holiday, right? That's the United States. But Columbus's impact, I mean, if it's celebrated in the United States, he never made it to the United States, okay? He made it in as far as the Caribbean. But the Spaniards pushed forward and got all the way up into Montana and Idaho and all this that the United States later took during the War of 1846, took away, because they wanted, I guess, their, again, quote, manifest destiny. God said, you are going to conquer from ocean to ocean and enslave everybody and just rule, To me, it's a bunch of BS, okay? It's just a way for one or a conglomerate of different European ethnicities that are white to say we rule and you guys are lesser beings, and so we can take we committed no sin. God says no. It's our destiny manifested by God, that we just do this, right? Enslave you and take your stuff, kill you, burn you alive, whatever, and we're cool. We still go to heaven. You guys are going to hell because you didn't believe in this stuff that we're telling you. That's actual history, right? Le estoy hablando de por qué tenemos una marcha aquí en octubre, ¿no? Pues es el mes que llegó Cristo Colón en las tierras, aquí yo le digo Semanahuac, ¿no? Semanahuac, que es una palabra náhuatl, de la gente náhuatl, y pues quiere decir todo el continente, ¿no? Pues Anahuac es la tierra, es una tierra, pero puede ser específica, ¿no? Un lugar. A Semanahuac es todo el continente, toda la tierra grande, ¿no? Llegando él, pues llegaron los españoles y empezaron a colonizar. Ellos dicen conquistar, ¿no? Pero colonizar, eliminar mucha gente indígena, quemarlos a vivos, a niños, matarlos en las manos de las mamás. Todo eso hicieron los españoles. Y todavía ahorita, aquí, estamos en el estado de Texas, y puesto por todo el sur, están celebrando el mes de la hispanidad. Le estoy hablando yo en español, pero no es mi lengua natal, ¿no? Eso la eliminaron colonizándonos. Y yo por eso les digo a mucha gente, ¿por qué celebran ustedes que los colonizaron? Están celebrando un mes de hispanidad. Lo deben de celebrar en España, no aquí en estas tierras que ellos trajeron genocidio, un holocausto en contra de la gente indígena, forzándonos a adaptar nombres españoles, a adaptar costumbres y cultura española y borrando nuestras culturas indígenas, diferentes cientos de lenguas que se hablaban aquí indígenas, nomás de un lado al otro. Pero el náhuatl era hablado por mucha gente. Y mucha gente me dice, pues eso pasó 500 años para atrás, sí, pero lo que pasó 500 años para atrás es como ellos envolvieron y siguen todavía haciéndonos deos, ¿no? Aunque México es una república y todo lo que era el imperio de México de Nueva España se cayó después de 1821 y siguió cayéndose. Toda la gente todavía piensa que su lengua natal, su madre lengua o madre tierra es España, pero mucha gente es indígena de aquí, siempre ha estado aquí, antes que llegara Colón, antes que llegara Cortés, antes que llegara Coronado, antes que llegaren todos estos que mataron tanta de nuestra gente. Y no entiendo por qué lo hacen, por qué celebran este mes de hispanidad, pero son los gobiernos para mantener todavía el poder sobre la gente, ¿no? Dije, no, pues, ellos nos dicen qué nacionalidad somos y qué derechos tenemos, ¿verdad? Bajo esa bandera o eso. Y yo les digo, nosotros estábamos aquí o nuestros ancestros estaban aquí por miles de años antes que llegara Cristo Colón 500 años para atrás, o Cortés 500 años antes que caera Tenochtitlán, antes que se movieran para el norte y para California y para Arizona y Nuevo México y todo esto, para Texas, todo esto y luego empezaron a pelearse entre los anglos y las diferentes religiones, ¿no? Porque les digo, los anglos cuando dijeron que iban a ser ciudadanos mexicanos, pero traían Biblias protestantes, y también esa guerra hubo, ¿no? Entre ellos, cuál religión era y es por eso también del anglosajón que trae esa religión y se impone a matar hasta católicos, ¿no? A todos, mexicanos, todo. Por eso tenemos la marcha. This program is bilingual, by the way. I forgot to tell you because I've been on for 20 some odd years, 27 years already now, or more, 28. And I usually repeat it, and sometimes I'll forget. But it's a bilingual program, and so I'll go in between Spanish and English and a few indigenous words like I just did in Nahuatl, and so I can even say a few other words in different languages. But I don't speak fluently because of the colonization that has occurred. Many people's, and I've said it before, if you were a northern tribe, you were prohibited from doing your own culture. You had to do it in a clandestine, right, and in hiding, in secret, and they would still go over there and try to break it up, right, kill people over practicing, such as was the ghost dance, right? I mean, they killed hundreds of people there just to stop any practice of our indigenous religions. So this has been ongoing. It hasn't stopped. Many people that live in reservations, or I see different honorings of code talkers and all that. That's good. But again, remember, the United States didn't accept any of the nations and native nations, indigenous nations, that it militarily squashed or conquered and put in reservations. They did not accept them as U.S. citizens until 1922, 1923, right? So, and you had to pledge allegiance and give up your sovereignty. Even if you're not a sovereign, you're an award. You're a ward of the government because of the status of warfare. See, all this is our history, real history. Not all this stuff you see that's commercialized. No, a real history. Los mexicanos, muchos, todavía hay gente indígena que digan, oh, pues hay nomás como 1 millón que todavía hablan su lengua natal de náhuatl o algo. Pero no, la mayoría, más que el 70% de la gente en México, tienen raíces indígenas. Tienen más que 25% de su sangre, de su, ¿qué dicen? ANDA, de raíz indígena. Aquí en los Estados Unidos, si tienes más de 25%, puedes pedir a quedarte en una reservación, ¿no? Que era prisión antes, pero son cienes o miles de acres donde la gente, ese tribu, se queda. Nueva España tenía tratados con los comanches cuando los comanches se movieron del norte para el suroeste, y con los apaches, como en Chihuahua, donde había mucho apache. Ahí estaba que le dicen Jerónimo, Goyatle. Todos estos diferentes áreas, los de Nueva España, los españoles o los mexicanos, ya que eran el imperio mexicano, usaban a los comanches y a los apaches como una frontera, ¿no? Para que los anglosajones no entraran tanto. Aunque los anglosajones ya venían también ellos con su conspiración, vamos a pedir ser ciudadanos mexicanos, así nos metemos más para adentro, más para el centro de México, y luego hacen la revolución en contra de México, que pasó en California, aquí en Texas, en diferentes áreas. Es la historia real. Y no ha parado, este racismo no ha parado, este nacionalismo que todavía se ve, pero ya como es más corporativo, ¿no? Son corporaciones en que sea de petróleo o ahora va a ser que de litio o algo para hacer pilas para las celulares o para las diferentes computadoras, los sistemas, minerales, no, en las tierras. Ya las corporaciones no tienen nacionalidad, aunque estén en un lugar u otro. Solo que puede ser un mexicano, que tal la corporación de los Estados Unidos, que tal la corporación de Italia, que tal... Ve, están conglamados, ya se unieron. Pero a la gente sí le enseñan ese racismo nacionalista. Ven los mexicanos cruzando las fronteras, muriendo. Aquí el gobernador de aquí de este estado está bien loco. Anda en la silla de ruedas ahí pensando en maneras de cómo hacer más cruel y menos humano, poniendo esas cercas con navajas, ¿no? en el río, y más en la frontera, y militarizando la frontera. En los 1980 tenía el presidente el actor Reagan de California que fue para Alemania y les dice, Gorbachev, bring down this wall. Que derrumbaran el muro. Pero aquí no, aquí ponen el muro en contra de los mexicanos después que los echaron al otro lado del río. En 1848, 1850 y siguieron hasta los 1900 quitándoles propiedades, ranchos y prohibiendo que cruzaran para atrás a reclamarlos. Esto es la historia. Como me dijo una vez una embajadora de México, ahí en los 1990, me dice, pues ¿qué quieres, que empiece una guerra? No, pero defienden a la gente los derechos de cruzar. Deben de hablar ambasador, con los gobierno con gobierno. Dije, mira, esta es la historia real. Vamos a crear una identificación para que pueda cruzar la gente sin tener que pagarle a coyotes o carteles o algo para poder cruzar, morir en trocas, morir en los ríos. Eso ya debe de parar. ¿Cuándo va a parar? Aquí han habido luchas para derechos civiles. ¿Dónde está nuestra lucha para los derechos humanos? Por eso tenemos esta marcha en octubre aquí. Aunque sea una marcha chica, la tenemos y la hemos tenido por 20 años. Son sobre los derechos humanos de las gentes indígenas, pero de toda gente, toda la humanidad. I've been talking about the continuation of this inhumanities, right? We have a governor here, Abbott, running around in his wheelchair thinking of ways to diminish humanity and ways to be more cruel. Trying to I guess, somehow appeal to this base, this white supremacist base that thinks because they're Protestant Christians, they're better than Jews or Catholics or whatever, and they don't care. They as long as they got their way to heaven or whatever. But the thing is this, that's inhuman. I mean, all these, what the United States has been doing is basically consolidating, as they have moved their manifest destiny all the way to the border. In 1848 to the 1850s, they were chasing Mexicans out of Texas, California, and all what is now Arizona and New Mexico, because there was all Texas. Anyway, and they've continued. They continued into the early 20th century, during those Revolution of Mexico, which happened again in the 1914, 1917. The United States was going and doing incursions into Mexico, and ranchers from up east were moving into Texas, just killing people, taking hundreds of acres or thousands of acres that belonged to Mexicans, just straight outright, hanging people, killing them. You talk about lynching, all up and down the Rio Grande, and it hasn't stopped. When you see this governor militarizing the border and putting up buoys with razor blades and setting up more barbed wire all along the border and militarizing it, and it just makes me reflect to why did that actor President Reagan from the late 1980s or 80s go to Germany and tell that Russian Prime Minister Gorbachev to take down that wall, there, take down that wall, Gorbachev, because it was splitting East and West Germany. But here, we know we're one people. We've been one people. We're separated now because two different nationalities, but we're still one people across that river. And we're seeing our people dying in the river. Seeing our people having to go through barbed wires with their children to try to reach, why come over here? Because maybe it's safer. You got cartels down there. To me, they're still doing the bidding of the United States. Because who are the major consumers of these drugs that they cross? Or who are the people that actually, the opportunistic rich that violate humanity by human trafficking? The rich, the United States. So who profits from all this cartel violence? The United States. Like I said, it's no longer basically a racist, it's like a corporate move, corporations. They're just making it to billions of dollars every year off of this. When are we going to actually address it? Admit that this has been going on for 500 odd years. Different factions, different ways, but it's still the same outcome. Racism, nationalism against certain people, as if their lives didn't matter. more than an America or U.S. I don't say American because, again, like I always say, Americo Vespucio was one of the ones that came on the trip with Columbus and said, hey, there's land over there. So all the Americas is named after them. Columbus thought he was in India, so now we're Indians, right? Even though this is in India, but all, this is the progression of Columbus landing on our continent. And here we are 500 years later, and we're still feeling that we're lesser than. We're lesser than humans. It's okay if your kids die in the river trying to cross over here because we have this. We must protect the United States border, secure it. You've only been here a couple of hundred years. Our people have been here over 17,000 years. Where are our rights? What about our human rights? And you can. I mean, this is not something that is secret. Daily news from California, from Texas, and you see it. I mean, people dying, crossing, and you see the governor talking about how he wants to secure and yeah, they focus on all the people on the border. And again, we have an election coming up, right? This is very political. So Democrats and Republicans are fighting as to how they're going to gain more popularity with what groups, what factions, right? So white supremacist, you got Trump over there still, even though he's one big criminal, thinking that he can get enough support to override that and still run. That's shameless. I mean, shameless. And to have, if you all people think that you are so honorable and you're going to have such a man represent you in politics worldwide, it hasn't gotten any better. It's gotten worse, okay? Because, I mean, you had the same people, kind of people, back 500 years ago. Kings and queens thinking they could do whatever they wanted to, which is why they were sending Europeans over here because they couldn't even go in a forest and hunt for a deer over there to eat. They had to grovel on their knees to their royalty. Pretty much the same thing as billionaires can do whatever they want to here. Once Europeans got over here, they saw natives hunting, fishing, doing without permission of any king. No king. It was for everybody. Even for those newly arrived illegal immigrants from Europe that crossed the ocean. Natives didn't say, no, you can't hunt that forest. No, you can't fish in that stream. That's how they survived. And then they learned what plants they could eat, what plants were poisonous from the native people. They learned this before they infected them with whatever viruses they had that wiped out millions of native people, before even any warfare. It's history, real history, okay? But it continues. History goes on every day. We're making it every day. So can we make it better? Can we actually address these issues that have gone on for 500 years here? And say, okay, yeah, let's start thinking about not just that having destroyed the new Spanish Empire that existed from Mexico into Central America, that they did in the 1820s, but let's start now, in the 21st century, issuing some sort of identification to all these people that were colonized by the Spaniards. There were native people, there were indigenous people. So that they can cross these borders like their ancestors used to, like our ancestors used to. When there's hurricanes, yeah. When there's volcanic action that takes over your whole area, climate change is coming no matter what because people are going to keep getting rich. And so they don't care about polluting or doing or destroying the environment. Shouldn't indigenous people have the right to migrate on their own continent? And I say, le digo a la gente indígena, tienen ustedes que declarar que son gentes indígenas. Declararlo en esos gobiernos donde están ustedes y decirles, oiga, usted tiene que hablar con este otro gobierno, tiene que hablar con México, tiene que hablar con los Estados Unidos de América, con los al norte y decirles, somos gentes indígenas, tenemos derecho de cruzar. ¿Cuándo va a hacer ese diálogo? ¿Cuándo van a hablar sobre eso? Es lo que se tiene que hablar para parar esta inhumanidad que está pasando, todas las muertes que siguen pues, sucediendo nomás para cruzar para el norte. Toda la gente que está encarcelada, toda la gente que muere en camino. Eso debe de parar. Si le dan una forma de identificarse como gentes indígenas, y yo dijera, si tiene más de 25% en edad de gente indígena, puede declarar usted que es gente indígena y tener derecho de emigrar para el norte hasta Canadá si quiere y regresar. Estas corporaciones tienen miedo a perder otra vez el labor, la mano de obra. Por eso esclavizaron a tantos millones de gentes de África. Por el labor de la mano, right? See, the whole thing is slavery still. All these corporations need labor. Still need it, even though they're coming up with artificial intelligence that can do almost everything, right? They still need labor, and they want cheap labor, just like they did back in the day when they had African slaves being imported. It's the same thing. Different tactic, different way to do it, same thing. I say, we need an identification for people that have indigenous ancestry. If you have more than 25%, you should be able to migrate north and south. When are we going to have the dialogue? When are these governments that set up shop here on our lands going to have this dialogue and recognize our human right of migration? We marched here in San Antonio, Texas, on October the 14th. Meet us at Plaza Italian, which used to be Columbus Park, but we changed the name a little bit. We're still fighting. We're still fighting. And it's not over. Join us. October 14th, in San Antonio, Texas, we march for human rights. Antonio Diaz, Tlazocamati, Cualitlenesi.
Se siente el Mexican style cuando el piel morena canta, el suelo empieza a temblar. Cuando un mexicano avanza, nada nos puede parar. Si estamos unidos siempre hay esperanza, somos potencia mundial. Cuando tenemos confianza, soy mexicano, caguandamos vara, nací en esta tierra y nadie se compara. Preguntas porque a todo se siente el Mexican style cuando el piel morena canta, el suelo empieza a temblar. Cuando un mexicano avanza, nada nos puede parar. Si estamos unidos siempre hay esperanza, somos potencia mundial. Cuando tenemos confianza, soy mexicano, caguandamos vara, nací en esta tierra y nadie se compara. Preguntas porque a todo le planto cara, un guerrero jaguar nunca esconde las garras. Mi pueblo, nuestra bandera agita, la esperanza eterna nunca se nos quita. Aquí la nopal pa' mi gente bendita, dañas mi nopal y no palpitas. Defiendo como loco el verde, blanco y rojo, orgulloso del color de mi bandera, que va buscando el verde pa' ser como el blanco y lo pintan de rojo en la frontera. Y no nos pueden parar, no nos van a parar. Si quiero yo me cruzo a lo Joaquín Guzmán. Créeme, aunque intenten no pueden. Son fríos con nosotros por mandarles nieve. Se siente el Mexican style cuando el piel morena canta, el suelo empieza a temblar. Cuando un mexicano avanza, nada nos puede parar. Si estamos unidos siempre hay esperanza, somos potencia mundial. Cuando tenemos confianza, soy mexicano, cabrón, hasta el desierto seco lo siembro y le saco una flor.
¿Qué onda, carnal? Dice mi gente, la raza está abajo y tú estás indiferente. Prefieres cerrar los ojos, no vi nada. Estabas ocupado por andar en la tomada. Te gusta tirar el cruising todo el día, buscando a las mujeres como si el mundo acabaría. Pero no sabías que tú podías continuar tu educación para superarte en la vida. Hermano joven, levanta tu frente y siente el orgullo de ser un descendiente de los aztecas, los incas y los mayas. Ayúdame a pelear y vencer.